the Premier League Poker Season 6 title. 2 stories.
You've got to use box 2.
One from Group A, one from Group B. On one side, Dan Shak, who's the chip leader, and Phil, he has glided, he has flown, he has cruised.
I think glided is the word. He's really never been on and called in this final heat, and he was never low in chips, so he just immediately started off doing great in the league, had points all the way, had chips all the way. He's never been in jeopardy. When he didn't pick up heads for a long time, he was willing to fold and wait, which is a characteristic of a strong player. He was also willing to make the ace-deuce call to give himself a shot to win, and so he has both sides of it, and you know, he's been impressive.
But he's the visitor. On the other side, kind of the epitome of flash. One of the most heralded players in the UK. A lot of friends, a lot of local guys here on the rail, rooting Sam on.
I'm good, thanks.
He's one of them. He's one of us, in a sense.
Yes, I said all my. That's what he's I took empty bottles. I don't have water either.
You know, he's come out of the local clubs. He's come out of the clubs around the UK and the little 20-pound, 50-pound tournaments to now playing in the highest stakes games in the world in Macau. And how do they match up, though?
And Sam is just extraordinarily talented. All right, so let's take a look. Total aggression, close, steal attempts, twice as many for Trickett. 3 bets are close. And, okay, so it looks pretty close, except for the chips, of course.
1,709,000.
It is, and their games are very, very different. On the one hand, Dan Shak, he plays a bit of a more safe approach. Sam Trickett likes to play all the streets, likes to make complicated moves, complicated decisions, and yet Shak has shown he does have that in him when it's required.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see, because this is where I think that Sam is just like Sam is a bit of a beast, you know. He's really a contender. He's one of the best players on the planet as well.
24.
And so, you know, Dan is trying to get to that status, and you know, and it just seems like he has his work cut out for him with Sam here. He really needs to, I think, find a way to keep some pressure back on Sam, because Sam has 10-6. He's probably going to raise it here. And he's gonna basically try to run over Dan, I think. It's very hard to run over Dan because he has a lot of money.
He certainly does. Twice as many chips. But you know, fans of poker television in the UK might remember Sam's first televised poker title.
Here comes Dan Shak with the ace-9. Excuse me for jumping on you. He's going to re-raise it here, and he actually wants action. So with ace with a 9 kicker, he doesn't mind raising and giving Sam a chance to re-raise. But I think this pot's over, obviously.
He's pounded it in. 50 up to 200 is barreling, isn't it?
It is barreling, but I mean, he's you know, he wants to leave the door open for Sam to move in with ace-8.
The king-6 again.
I guess he was thinking. I guess when he re-raised, he made up his mind that he was going to play that hand all in when he made it 200.
What is the kryptonite? What is the, as Phil Hock would say, what is the antidote for someone who plays Shaq's style? I guess it involves a lot of min-raising and then trying to trap. Is that the idea?
You have to, exactly right, Jesse. Min-raising and trapping. That's exactly what you want to do. And we'll just see if, and I think Sam can do that. Sam can play all gears, but he's not going to sheerly aggress him. He's not going to beat him by, you know, just through sheer aggression. Wow, look at that. Dan folded 8-9 on the button. That can't be right. I don't like that fold. On the other hand, if he puts a chip in there, he's getting raised by Sam, who had ace-7. But still, we're talking about strategy, and 9-8 is not a folding hand on the button, ever.
It was about 2 or maybe 3 years ago when Trickett won the World Open here in London, and the heads-up match, which I think was one of the greatest I've ever seen, was Trickett versus Timoshenko. Timoshenko was quite a good player, and he never got a look in.
7 raised to 50,000.
Well, we'll see what happens here. And you also kind of feel... Sorry, go ahead, Phil.
Dan's playing opposite poker here. He should have played the 8-9 and he should have folded the 8-deuce. You know, we talked about, you know, I gave some heads-up lessons in the heads-up matches earlier. And, you know, about the way you play. And you just do not defend in the big blind with 8-deuce suited. You don't play 4-5 suited. You don't play 3-4 suited. You just don't play those hands. It's just mathematically they've proven that you need to fold those hands. And so... pretty much he had an easy fold pre-flop and called. On the other hand, he had 8-9 on the button, which you're never supposed to fold on the button. So he played a hand you're never supposed to play, and he folded a hand you're never supposed to fold in the last two hands. So Dan probably...
there are also very few cards that can hit on the turn where Dan can still comfortably continue. I mean, well, that may be one of them, but Dan's still best result here is to check it down, right?
Now, Dan is stubborn enough where he's capable of making this call. And Sam knows that, so Sam just went ahead and checked and said, all right, I'll take a queen or a 9, please.
3 of diamonds.
Now, he made a pair of 3s. So let's see if Shak can value bet this. And he probably... No, he's checked it. So,
7 check.
What did you say?
2 pair.
I had an 8. Oh, I'm sorry.
It's all right. It's okay.
I thought you had a 10 or jack.
I had an 8.
I apologize.
Well,
the pot would have gotten awarded, right?
yeah, but I mean, 2 pair and yeah.
But there was a hand in one of the first heats, or maybe it was the third heat when the heat Dan Shak won, and he made a check raise on the turn against Tobias Renkemeyer.
My bottom on the board.
And Renkemeyer was so surprised that he folded a strong hand. I think it was top pair without a bad kicker. And you just kind of feel like if Dan chooses his moment to make a completely unexpected bluff, that could be the title, and if he has the timing right, all he needs is that one.
Yeah, that's a good observation. Exactly right. Dan, if he steps up his game and makes a couple of check raises that he's not expected to make, he's going to get away with them because it's so hard for Sam. And there's Dan. He's just going to. I mean, I think that Trickett might just play the straight-up math style here, which is hard to beat, as evidenced by the heads-up matches that we witnessed, right?
I mean, it seems like you've got to go a long way before you can beat that. Or
it's still so strange to me that so many of the great players don't know the math. But on the other hand, I didn't know the math till January.
I was gonna say.
So I mean, you know, I just. It is amazing. I mean, and that's one thing that the online kids just have over us in spades is some situations where we just don't play right, a lot of the great players. So I don't think Dan studied the math, and I wonder if Sam has, or if he knows it. I would think he does, because he hangs out with a lot of people that do know it.
Yeah, Sam,
at least neither one of us takes an hour for each
he actually exploded onto the scene.
I'm not going to tank fold on him.
He played a lot of hands online. He was down in South Africa for a while, playing poker down there and doing a little training. And everything just clicked for him in about 6 months a few years ago, and then he was Trickett.
I like his style.
It was interesting. He was a guy, Sam, who was just sort of known as just another poker player on the tour, running around, and you know, it wasn't like he was just a kid prodigy, if you know what I mean. He had a couple of years where he was trying things and just kind of busting around, and then all of a sudden, I mean, in fact, I think when he first started really winning tournaments, everyone was like, who, Sam Trickett? You know, isn't he the guy that just kind of, you know, was busting out of tournaments all over the place?
Well, I mean, it can be said that, you know, people figure things out for different reasons at different times. We don't know, you know, what those reasons or times are, but it can happen anytime to anybody where they can all of a sudden take the level of their game up higher. All the viewers that are listening, there's a bunch of them out there that if they focused on poker, they could become really good, but they don't know exactly. I can't tell them exactly when that would be. Would it be 10 years in that all of a sudden they'd be champions, or would it be 2 months in? You know, but there's a huge group that can become really good at poker, and so the learning curve for everybody is different time-wise.
And then when it clicks, it clicks.
When it clicks, it clicks. All of a sudden, you're looking at the cards, and you see something that nobody else sees. You know, when I look at cards, I see moves that other people don't see, and then I get criticized for that, but that's okay. By the way, Dan again folded the 7-9 offsuit on the button, which is not a fold.
And he actually didn't exactly see exactly what the raise size was, but it looked a little
Sam
small on the
limped in,
small side. Oh, Sam limped in. Okay.
Sam limped in that time, it looked like to me. And but the hand before, Dan folded 7-9 on the button. It turned out that Trickett had ace-9. So to the viewers at home, it looks like a good fold, but it's just not a good fold.
Dan Shak, since this heads-up has started, has made a little bit of an inroad.
Wow, Trickett has ace.
Guess what hand I've got?
Ace king.
Better.
Better? I had ace king the hand before. He had aces, I had ace
Give me
king the hand before.
3 walks. I had ace 9, ace 8, and aces. Raised every other time. I must have a tell that you can feel the heat off the cards.
That's tilting.
Sam doesn't believe that.
See, that's my plan, to make you feel great about how you're playing heads up, show you every hand, make you feel fantastic.
Very funny. Very funny, Sam. I like that.
I'm going to be happy no matter how this ends up.
Yeah. We both got lucky to be here.
Very much.
Well,
C7 calls. C1 checks.
I mean, you know, Trickett is fighting up a hill, and Dan Shak knows that.
7 of hearts, king of diamonds, ace of spades.
Which is why I'm a little surprised, as you said, that he's not putting just a tad more pressure on him.
well, with the deuce 4, I don't like the limp. I think he can fold it or he can min raise it, but
C7 bets 24,000.
Couple backdoor draws.
Sam doesn't even have a hand that good. That's the no door.
But it might be his plan to play every button against Dan Shak, and maybe that's probably a good plan, actually. Because I think that Sam has the advantage after the flop. So if he can get to a lot of flops, he can start using that advantage.
And I mean, you are this recent convert. You're preaching the math. I mean, you love it. However, the old Phil Hellmuth would say, everything is player dependent, and you need to take the math, then come up with a special strategy for that player, or else just stick a computer in the seat and forget about forget about what who you are.
Right, but don't misunderstand me. I'm saying that the math is strong and it's important. But I'm also saying that adding an element. I mean, you have to design it for yourself. So understanding the math is the first thing. Once you understand it, then you can act on. Then you can act on it.
Little raise from Dan Shak.
So once you understand the math, you can design a strategy, and you at least understand what your opponent's doing. You know what I'm saying, Jesse?
Absolutely. And Trickett clearly has a plan to just try and play as many flops as possible.
9 spades, 8 of clubs, 4 spades.
This kind of spot can hurt him, though.
C7 checks.
Dan wants to bet here because he wants to get check raised and move all in. Because if he gets check raised by a 4 or an 8, he can move all in and just win the pot. Or by a straight draw or a worse flush draw. So
One bets 90,000.
Bet a little bit, such a strong bet. I'd like to see him bet more like 60, 70,000, induce something. If he bet 60, he could induce a Trickett bluff.
Wow, he's basically bet the pot, hasn't he?
Yeah, and then it just loses his ability to have Sam do something silly here.
Oh.
On the other hand, it does win the pot, and it sends a message to Sam: if you want to do something, you're going to have to raise big.
Yeah, Trickett doesn't like that, actually.
There's a vodka.
Well, That's
Yeah,
one.
can I get
That's one way to win.
Lime and lemonade.
I saw Warren Lush
John?
in the background there. Somewhere.
John, can we get water, please? Oh, so they're on the way with it?
She's here.
Oh, water, please. Just water. Thank you very much.
20.
Yeah, I know.
Now, what are the odds? Because
Been a
one of them
long
has
week.
ordered a water and one's ordered a
A
vodka.
long
What are
month.
the odds the waitress gets the orders wrong? Switches them by accident. That could be very funny. This ain't water. Well, this ain't vodka.
And 12.
And Sam has limped a bit again on the button.
Deuce of diamonds, ace of clubs, jack of hearts.
Yeah, and that's okay. If he's going to limp a lot of buttons, that's okay. I mean, I don't mind him adjusting his strategy, and
Suit 7.
he's just trying to get to flops. So his strategy is I want to play a lot of flops against Dan
Ace of hearts.
and put some heat on him, you know, make him make some decisions.
Flush draw here for Shak.
Straight draw here for
Suit
Trickett.
7 checks. River is the king of clubs. 15 checks.
Pretty nice card, not that he needed it.
7 bets, 32,000. Keep on calls.
My hand was worse, I promise you.
You do well to beat me there.
What?
I'll be very surprised if you could beat my hand there.
Sam, if it
If
was
I
the
was
king of
beating your
hearts,
hand?
No chance.
it's over. Tournament's over.
Right.
I don't think I can call with 7 high.
No.
It's okay.
Yeah, that
It
is
was
the
the
other
right
thing
fold.
about heads
Oh, it
up.
was a right fold on my part?
Is that
Of course, you
Oh,
have
okay.
7 high.
No, obviously.
Yeah.
No, but I turned a flush draw, so
Oh, okay.
you could have gotten a little value on the turn.
is that if you're patient, you can always just wait for a cooler.
Well, Sam's defended a couple of times out of position with weaker hands.
Raised 50,000, C7 calls.
And he just folded the 4 or 5 offsuit this time. Sam did.
This is Dan Shak's, of course, debut in the Premier League. He's enjoyed it. Sam Trickett was a participant in season 5. And he did make the final table, but kind of got blown off it. I think by Patrick Antonius.
C7 calls.
So he's pretty much just going to limp every button,
One check.
at least in this level.
Yeah.
Trickett about
So he takes
25
king of hearts,
bigs.
ace of hearts.
27 bigs, maybe.
C1 checks.
We're both going to check our cards? Okay.
Thank you.
C7 bets 35,000. C1 calls.
So Dan's thinking that queen high is good, or he has a plan to get busy on a later streak.
Turn is a jack of clubs. C1 checks.
Now he does get sticky, so obviously Trickett knows this.
Well, Trickett's thinking he could have a draw or he could have a 3. I'm going to try to move him.
75,000.
Trickett smells some weakness, so let's see if Dan has the had a plan. I guess not.
C1 calls.
If he is going to make a move, Dan, he's pretty unlikely to do it with complete air. It feels like the kind of guy who wants to have a little backup.
Yeah, I agree. And he basically just called the flop because it looked like his queen high was good. Once Sam bet again, he said, okay. I may be good, I may not be good, but I'm done with this hand.
1.8 out of the 2.6 in play in the hands of Dan Shak. All the way from the New York of A. Or is that just where he's originally from? Does he live in California now these days?
I'd say half New York, half California for Dan. I would say he lives in L.A.
Coast to coast.
Yeah, he lives in L.A. He has a really, really nice place in. Where am I thinking of? New York. You know, where all the.
He's got way too good. He's got a way too good a tan to be.
You know
a
what
New
I'm talking
Yorker.
about, Jesse?
Yeah.
The big, where all the people, the Hamptons. He has a monster house in the Hamptons.
Sure.
But he told me, he said, Phil, he said, I'd rent that thing out, and 1 month I make back all my mortgage payments for the year. I don't think he spends a lot of time there.
6-7 calls.
Tough to find a place in the Hamptons. Unless you're a Clinton, or a Rockefeller, or a Shak.
One raises to 80,000.
It would have been really unusual for Dan to just sort of check there in the big blind. He's not going to be doing any trapping like that, is he?
No. No, but, you know, there's a spot to do it and there's a spot not to do it, and looks like the 80 is working.
So 24 up to 80, and for Trickett to call there, I mean, it's a little bit of a statement, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, Trickett's, he might have ace-10. He doesn't know he's dominated at this
King
point.
of spades, 7 of diamonds, 6 of hearts.
And Sam also knows that most times Dan is going to miss the flop. That opens the door for him to.
So part of calling there might involve a float.
Bets 80,000.
Float can get expensive. Wow. If he is going to continue on in this hand, oh, just a call. I mean, this is pretty sublime, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, this is a very interesting. I mean,
Turns 10 of diamonds.
wow, that's going to cause them both to check.
I mean, it's almost like, you know, Trickett can only call there if he really knows that Dan is going to check every time, check the turn every time he doesn't have anything. Is Dan going to check the? Oh, he is.
Checks.
I mean, I guess he's got a pretty strong air to check the turn with. My gosh, is Sam going to win this pot?
Well, he's not checking, I'll tell you that. He called to bet. Now, the problem is that he actually picked up an open ender, and that might actually force him to check. But his plan was not to check unless maybe an 8 or a 10 hits. And the 10 came, so.
What you're saying is he doesn't want to blow himself off the pot. If he gets check raised here,
Yes,
I mean, he's
exactly.
just going to be sick, isn't he?
Yes.
7 bets 130,000.
I mean, the move we were talking about before that Dan needs to find, this is the one. If he could check raise here, it's game over.
Yeah, it's pretty complicated to do that in this spot.
Right.
But I don't think Dan's folding.
I mean, it is quite tricky if you're Dan. I mean, what could Sam have that you can beat? That 10 kind of completed a couple draws that he would have had on the flop if it was an 8-10, if it was, wow.
You can beat 4-5, you can beat 5-8, that's it.
All right. Nice hand, he says, and Trickett agrees. How did he win that? Is it just the power of position, perhaps?
Yeah, what he's decided to do is he's going to try to play the player. So you can play the cards, you can play the player. And so Dan, if he he's going to find this out, but maybe not for an hour. Maybe he won't ever find this out. But you just have to say, Sam, well played. You know, I mean.
12,
and if Dan Shak leads out there, Sam's going to at least call.
Maybe I should start limping like you.
Trickett's gotten a few
The
back.
limp's working now.
I think we're like even. Even heads up so far.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that hand got you the.
Sam Trickett is not going to go away.
One calls.
Dan Shak is going to have to.
check.
He's going to have to beat him, but he's up for that challenge.
Sam doesn't mind checking the ace there because, you know, Dan hasn't really. He's folded 4 or 5 buttons in a row. What did he limp with? You know.
4 diamonds, queen of spades, 10 of hearts. 6, 7 check.
And he's probably quite happy overall that he's got Dan to start limping. I mean, as far as his game strategy goes, Dan is now playing in his arena.
One bet's 40,000. Seven folds.
Powered that through. Good check.
Yeah, Dan's not just going to roll over.
Well,
So it's interesting to see what adjustments will Dan make. He knows now that Sam's going to limp in, and so now he knows that, you know, he can. You look at the ace-jack hand, for example. If he's going to make a big raise and Sam's going to call, then you might not want to make a big raise next time. It's too hard to hit a flop, Jesse.
right.
Especially out of position.
6, 7 raises to 60,000.
It's got a few more chips, so just decides to change the strategy a little bit and start raising. Maybe it's just on the basis of how bad this hand is.
Supposed to call with this, but
I'm actually supposed to fold it.
Now, are you telling me the math tells you to fold the 9-6 suited?
Okay, that one you can win.
I know, guys in the booth. I'm supposed to call with that.
It's actually
Make it
close.
50, I
It's
call.
certainly not a
That's
certainly
good,
not a
make it
horrible
60.
laydown.
I believe you.
I was happy with it pre-flop. And a pair.
Sam Trickett had the deuce 8 offsuit.
He's claiming pair.
Yeah.
He had a pair of cards.
Pair of cards. And interesting. So I don't know. I'm glad to see Trickett adjusted there because I don't think just limping every button is going to work for him.
See one folds.
You don't have an ace this time, finally.
King. King.
Now these guys are, I mean, obviously
Can't have an
it's,
ace every time.
No.
it's
It was
friendly,
about time.
very,
Aces,
very
ace nine,
friendly
ace eight, ace
spirit
10.
that this is being played, and as has the whole Premier League. But the drama is back. You know, the final table started out a little slow. It seemed a little
those
too
lights,
friendly.
What?
These lights.
You can feel that they're playing for the title now. They're both pretending to be a lot less interested than they are. You know, Dan said, "I'm happy either way." Sam said, "Yeah, you know, we're both gotten lucky to be here." And if you believe either of those guys, you know,
They're both very cool customers, aren't
right. They've gotten this far,
Very cool customers.
and they want it.
Of course
You know,
they do.
you don't get to this stage and then
Just
say,
gonna
"I
do
don't
that
care."
A little
So
while
Sam
longer,
has
maybe.
decided to raise when he has nothing on the button, and probably limp when he has something, which is a
Not
great
that much
strategy with Dan folding as often as he's folding.
I can still be a little patient.
Sorry?
I still can be a little patient.
So I think
Yeah,
if Sam
with
has
those kind of
queen jack
loads of
suited, he'll
chips.
probably limp in. But if he has deuce 8 offsuit, he'll raise,
Right.
which is good because it's better to play a pot with somebody when against a blind hand with queen jack suited.
The blinds are going to go up to 15 and 30,000 just in a couple hands. That's going to significantly change things, but it'll up the price of poker.
6, 7 checks.
And checks quickly. See, he knows he doesn't want to give away and study and pretend he has an ace or king. He just wants to check quickly, like, I have nothing, I check, you know?
7 of diamonds, 10 of clubs, 3 of diamonds. 7 checks, 6 1 checks.
Trickett playing it
7
slow.
ace of clubs,
I like to see Trickett bet here.
6, 7 checks. 6-1 check.
They're both trying to show down their high card. Or are they?
River's a jack of spades.
I mean, betting on that turn for Sam, it looked a little fishy, doesn't it, with the ace? I mean...
Well, right now, Dan's not doing anything to stop him from when he looks fishy.
7 check, 6-1 check.
King high.
Just good enough.
We're getting called anyway.
Yeah.
And for Sam Trickett, he is not far away from $1 million in
And had
chips.
good showdown value.
Yeah.
I thought mine did too.
Yeah, we both thought it was winning, right?
Pass out this level, gents. Blinds will be up next hand.
Dan Shak finished second in Group B with, I believe, 39 points. Trickett third in
7 calls.
Group A with 27 points.
And Dan is, he's remained very patient. When he finally did jump out with the ace-jack of spades, he ended up losing a lot of chips there too. So he's gonna have to. I don't know if he knows what adjustments he needs to make.
Deuce of clubs, king of hearts, 5 of hearts.
It's almost like Phil. You think he's kind of thinking, well, just maintain. When the blinds will go up, they'll kind of win the tournament for me in a sense, which, I mean, is reasonable. I mean, that is what will happen if
you're
he
going to give him
maintains.
300,000, then the chip counts are going to be like even by then, So you have to be careful. But here's Dan. He's playing a hand well.
One raises to 90,000. 7 calls.
Nothing Trickett can do there.
Blinds are up now, 15,000.
Wow, how did he find that?
30,000.
That's very good.
Well, of course. he has to do
sorry.
that. He flopped.
I thought it was
pair.
pre-flop. I think I've been up too long. I saw Jack 5 deuce on board, and I saw King 5 deuce on board, and I still thought that it was pre-flop. Maybe I need to find a cup of coffee.
I don't know if you have to drink much coffee. This thing might not last that much longer. I mean, I think Dan is going to have to. He's going to have to make some adjustments, I think, and if he doesn't, then Sam's going to just chip away at him.
That's his plan.
That's his plan. Chip away.
I mean, Trickett would just like to keep every pot very small. As small as possible.
Calls.
Except maybe this one. This one he can let get a little bit bigger.
7 raises to 60,000. 1 calls.
I mean, that's fishy. That is so fishy, isn't it? Is it just because we see it? Whoever min raises from the big blind, Phil?
Yeah, and oh my God,
Spades, 10 of spades.
this is so bad for Dan Shak. I mean, he's going to need to catch a 10 or a 9, or Sam's going to have a massive chip lead. He really lured him in well with a little min raise before. It's hard to blame Dan for calling with a 9-10 suited.
But alarm bells should be going off in your head when the guy min raises from the big blind, right?
I suppose. Sam's pretty tricky, though.
Turn is the 8 of spades.
Now that's going to slow down the action. That could save Dan a lot of money.
Spade check.
Yeah. He's like, darn it, I don't have a spade. If you're Sam here, I think you might want... Yeah, I think you like to check.
Wow.
And I think this is one where you might just have to check raise.
Really? Tell me why.
Well, you really don't want to free... It doesn't look like Dan has a flush. So if he has a 10, you have to raise him out of there. You can't let him hit.
130,000. 120,000.
And if you do have the best hand, you feel like he might check back the river with a lot of times. So
yeah,
you need
he's going to check back the river,
lead.
and it's not like he's going to be value betting 10s with a 9 if Trickett calls a big bet here. Plus, there's a lot of river cards that are bad for his hand. I think he has to protect his hand.
He's come to the decision to call.
Very patient, very patient.
Do you think that's because if he has to make a super sick laydown on the river, he's prepared to do it?
7 of hearts.
I think it's because he's not sure that Dan has anything. Maybe Dan has a deuce.
Check 1 check.
Kings.
Showdown.
Kings?
Dan says kings. That qualifies, sir.
So kings.
Nice hand.
Well,
Yeah.
You're supposed to show first, but...
Oh.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, okay, nice.
Now Sam's disappointed because he knows if he would have check raised the flop, he's going to get a lot of Dan's chips.
And, you know, as much as Sam, I think, isn't the kind of guy who likes to do it,
I
he
might
deemed
check
that
the turn,
important
you bet the
information.
river
He wanted
anyway.
to
Yeah,
see
I was
that.
gonna go bet
He
that,
wanted
but-
to see that hand.
Thought you had a 2 or a 3.
So,
That's better than you
Of
thought.
course he has to see it.
Nice hand.
Yeah, unlucky.
Yeah, that's one I could have slipped up and shoved. So
Yeah, good turn card for you.
15 set.
Yeah,
I thought
I
you might
mean,
have had a better 10. Like, I didn't feel that comfortable, even though I bet the turn.
So,
Sam Trickett not far from even in chips now, although
They're
Dan
probably
Shak's
saying in the
got the
booth,
lead.
this could be it.
When the flop came, yeah.
It felt like it.
Thought you had a
That's
2
what we
or a
said.
3.
yeah, Sam's, you know, he's gonna have to get more value out of his
Nice
hands
to get
against
aces
Dan.
and kings heads up.
Yeah, you keep, you know.
6, 7,
Dodged a
raised
few
to
bullets.
60,000.
Would have been interesting to
We
see
should
what
play
would
a
have
bit
happened
crazier.
if he had check raised there on the turn.
Here comes Dan, 200. Yep,
Raised
200.
200,000.
That's the move he likes. Separate one cool, tall cylinder of chips from the stack and
It
Bring
could have
him
been
in.
a lot worse for Dan Shak in that pot. A lot worse. He had 9-10 on the button, which he's not supposed to fold. He did get in there. He called the min raise, which I think is
So you
okay.
I wouldn't even mind a couple races. And just
right. Well, you can't, you can't
this.
fold to a min raise when you've lived on the button, can you?
I don't think
Sure,
so. I mean, not
15.
with 10-9, and so now he flops a 10. The fact that Trickett min raised before the flop can make him lose a little bit less, but
He made a nice check on that river. I think when Sam saw the 10, it was kind of felt like he deserved a bet.
oh yeah, Sam was not happy at that point.
1 calls. 7 checks.
He's feeling a little tired, but the adrenaline is back. I mean, for all of the
8 of clubs, 10 of clubs.
administrations they've made, Trickett is open-ended in a sense, double-bellied.
30,000.
5 or 9 would make him a straight,
And 2 overcards.
in a sense.
And Sam's drinking, so he started drinking vodka a while back. So
Turns Queen of Spades.
wow, what a card
oh my
for
gosh,
Dan.
beautiful.
And we'll see what happens here, but I wouldn't be surprised if Trickett fires because
Well, he led the flop. You got to lead the turn, Phil.
well, it
7
looked
bets,
like
100,000.
Dan flopped nothing, right? It looked like he flopped nothing. So I mean, when he called the bet, and how can he imagine that the queen smashed him like that?
And what will happen when he raises, if he does? Trickett just going to have to fold.
Depends how much.
This one raises to 300,000.
Yeah, 200 is just too much to try to hit a straight draw.
Certainly regretting this. Blown himself off the pot, perhaps.
Yeah, he's probably not happy right now.
It is exactly what it looks like. The queen helped Shak.
You know, Sam's thought is, all right, I think he's just going to have to fold, but nothing he can do. But if he calls and hits a 9 or a 5, he wins the tournament. So that was a nice queen for Dan because he was able to pick up, you know, a lot of money because of that queen. Because I don't know if he can call if the queen doesn't come, Jesse.
Right. Well, he's entitled. I believe I was Mike Sexton was alongside me when Sam Trickett won the World Open. At the time, I think you know, Mike was full of praises. He's always had a lot of praise for Sam Trickett.
60.
Mike's seen a lot of good players in his time. I mean, if anybody's watched as many great poker players as Mike Sexton, all the WPT champions, of course, in those early years, he's a good judge.
Sure is. You gotta like Mike Sexton. A great
back to where we started again.
And a great player in his own right.
Back and forth, back and forth. I probably shouldn't have folded that last time. Could have.
I think you made a good fold. One pair was not good.
Okay.
You showed me enough, so I'll just tell you one pair was not good.
I love this idle chatter because it's got a little knives and needles in it. I mean, nothing unfriendly, but they're probing. They're listening. They're.
No, I mean, I think that was just completely honest. He said, one pair's no good. You've shown me a bunch of hands. I'll just tell you one for free.
Oh.
Seemed very legitimate by Dan Shak there.
Sorry.
Flop. 5 clubs, 6 of hearts, 4 hearts.
Let's just limp this button.
C1 bets 40,000.
We can't see his other card, can we? He may have flopped a straight for all we know.
I was thinking, I mean, he may be happy enough playing with just one if it comes a 3 or an 8. Don't even need the other card. Well, you can have a guess, Phil, based on what he does on the turn.
Yeah, right.
Turn is 6 clubs.
Wow, 3 6s for Sam. Wow.
7 checks.
And it would be unlike Dan to be betting this on the turn, wouldn't he? He'll take the free card.
The free card, absolutely.
River's a 9 of spades.
Yeah, Sam better do his own betting here because there's no way that Dan's gonna. There's no way he's gonna call, and there's no way he would bet. So pot's over.
7 bets 120,000.
He doesn't look tired anymore, Dan Shak. I know he's said he's tired, but I feel like he's very locked in. He senses that he can win this tournament. Or is he trying to pull a move out here? Is he thinking, what does Sam have? What would he be betting? If Sam Trickett had a 4 or 5, would he just knuckle it on the river?
I think you had a 7 too, so it's just a matter of what your kicker is with the 7.
Uh-oh.
Whether your kicker hit the board or not. I could be dead wrong.
And this time you
How
are.
much is it?
120.
Wow, can he call with queen high? That's an opinionated call.
Dead wrong.
But what was his line of thinking, Phil?
Nice
His
hand.
line
He
of
had Jack
thinking is
7,
that
I win.
he could have Jack
Yeah,
3,
it
he
was
could have
either
Jack
that or
7, he could
something
have
like
10-7. There are a lot of drawing hands that
That was
that he could
a
beat.
bad hero call.
So he
You
made the
did
hero
have Jack
call.
high, except 2 6s with it. Because you're either betting 3 6s or bluffing.
Yeah, I
So-
could have a
That's a
flush
big
draw
swing
missed out.
there.
No,
in this
I-
match.
I think this is
I had
Trickett's
you
highest
something
chip
in that
count.
range.
Yeah,
like
and
maybe even
if
Jack 7.
Dan
So
folds, he has him.
Yeah.
He's
I'll
at
probably play it the same.
1.5 still.
You have to bet the river with Jack
Yeah, with
7.
nothing.
Nice hand.
Thank you.
They're probably crucifying me in the booth for that.
No, I didn't crucify him. I think he's supposed to fold because Sam is so
7
tricky.
calls.
But I didn't say it was a horrendous call. I've called with queen eye lots of times, Jesse. You didn't hear me say anything negative about that, did you?
No.
You asked me what's the reasoning,
5.5.
which is a fair.
6-1 check.
Of course, everyone loves the old story about Stu Unger calling a guy with, was it a Jack 10 high or something like that? You must know
8-1
that.
check.
Were you there?
7 check.
I was around then.
River 3 of diamonds.
Did you ever witness a Stu Unger
8-1
call
check.
that just made you blush? In a
Can't go with
sense?
7 high.
Trickett's taking
Stu and
it.
I played. I will tell you one hand if you want to
Can
hear.
make
How
only-
Stu and I
that's-
played.
Of
I
course
hope my
can.
only hero bad call.
So basically, Stu and I were playing in L.A.
Made
and
worse,
the
I
blinds
assure
were
you. Yeah.
1 in 200, and I had
That
about
was pretty
20,000
bad.
in
Made
front
a
of
few
me.
bad
and
ones in my time.
Johnny Chan was in the
Started
game.
on the five.
Amit
Yeah,
the Small
6 or
Chew was in the
7. I was
game.
hoping it was 7.
It was basically the
The only
5
7 I
greatest
thought
no limit
would
hold'em
beat me
players.
was like 7
known
9 or something like
Right,
that.
Say it
players
again,
on the
Johnny
planet.
Chan, yourself, Stu Unger.
Johnny Chan, Stu Unger, Amit the Small Chi,
Right.
me. That's
1990
4 world
champion.
champions,
Too many of those.
and there was another great player in there too. And so we're just playing this just jam up game, and I'll never forget the hand. It came Amit raised with 2 kings, and Stu called, and I called, and it came ace deuce 3. I had the jack 5 of diamonds. It came ace deuce 3 with the ace of diamonds, and I checked, and
One raises to
Amit bet.
85,000.
and Stewie raised.
Right.
And so I just shipped for 17,000 because I said Stewie has to have a deuce or a 3. I knew he would have re-raised with an ace before the flop. I didn't think Amit had an ace, but even if Amit has an ace, I'm blowing him out of the pot for 17K. So
Right.
I just felt like, all right, I mean, I'm just going to win this pot. And then Stewie called. He surprised me, called 15,000 more, whatever it was. And the hands went on their, it did not go on their back in those days.
Right.
So I said to Stewie, do you want to split the pot? I mean, I'm sitting on
You got the jack high.
5
yeah,
high.
with the backdoor flush draw.
And he
perhaps.
studied for a second, and he said no. So I was rooting like heck for, a 4, an offsuit 4, right? And the turn was a jack, and he said, "You want to split the pot?" And I said, "Nope." And they dealt the river, and it was a blank. And I flipped up my hand, and he spent like literally 2 minutes going, with the cards back and forth. And the scenario was he had the 5-6 of spades.
7 bets 30,000.
He'd flopped a straight flush draw. He thought I had a deuce or a 3, so he didn't want to split it. The only card I don't take the split in the turn with is a jack or a 5. And the card I was rooting for was
the 4 that would have lost.
that would have lost you. Wow. All right. So here we have a big hand. I think Sam limped in. And this is one reason why you limp. Now he's made the nut flush, and Dan can never fold. So it's a matter of, how much you want to win this hand, Sam.
90,000.
Wow, it sure is. There was a min bet on the flop. And now he's checked on the turn. And
One called.
this pot now,
Now
300K.
Sam is not really worried about a full house here. The way the actions came, I guess the worst card in the deck for him would probably be a queen.
He's made 3 5s that are immaterial.
6-1 checks.
I think Sam's going to bet 212,000.
Feels like Shak has a diamond. How high is it? Or does it matter? Is it just a question of if he's willing to call little, he's willing to call a lot?
That's one reason to limp on the button with superior hands. Occasionally, you both have a big hand.
Oh, it's
240,000.
That's right. I mean, Shak might be thinking, well, he can't have an ace here, so the best thing he can have is a jack of diamonds.
240.
This is a really sick end of this hand, I have to tell you.
Dan's trying to find a way. Wait, I see the 5. Does the 9 somehow make a full house? Nope, you're stuck on the 3rd best possible hand. At least on 4th Street it was. This is a spot for Dan to actually make a hero fold.
Because even though he's got a great hand, any hand that Sam Trickett is betting for value beats him. And he has the ace-high flush. Very, very tough to get away from.
I got one of those and this.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was running bad. Running good, obviously.
The queen of diamonds was about the worst turn card that could come out there.
Well, I don't think he's kidding when he said running good, obviously, because he ran pretty good on that hand.
Yeah.
But he really has outmaneuvered Dan in the heads-up to this point, you know?
He's dictated the pace, hasn't he? And I mean, that's so important.
He has. He's kept out of the way when Dan's had big hands, and when he's had big hands, he's managed to get a lot of money. And the kings, the nut flush draw with the ace, and when he had the jack 9 and he was in bad shape, he somehow found a float
along with the 4 diamonds
and then a bluff.
Yeah,
and so that was played brilliantly. That started him off.
That really did.
Just running
and
three
you know,
of them
besides
If
that,
Dan somehow goes crazy and moves in there, you know, then you know, I mean, the whole match is over.
Sure.
But I'm not saying that was a easy play.
And now that Trickett's got the chip lead, it's just a question of being careful and consolidating, keeping it small. But
it almost seems like it's just a matter of time, doesn't it?
well, a matter of time till Dan adjusts. I mean, Dan's. Don't you think he's smart enough to say, look, this is not
well,
going
he adjusted.
away?
He just limped in with an ace high here.
Right.
Check. C1 check.
Trickett's flopped the bottom pair.
Turn is 10 of clubs. C7 check. C1 check.
I mean, he did make that one bluff, Phil, but in every other department, isn't Trickett actually just making money with the value bets? You know, that's where he's profited. That's where he's really made hay with value bets.
Slightly better hand than you.
Yeah, that's true.
You've had some nice hands this heads up.
I've hit so many hands, it's unbelievable.
I mean, he has.
He really has.
Yes.
I mean, he says you had an ace.
Guess
Three
I could
times
be
that
broke
Dan,
already.
3 times that Dan wasn't supposed to fold. He had an ace
Maybe
high.
could
each
have raised
time.
it for you, or you would have stacked you already.
Right.
Definitely saved money on the king's hand.
Yes.
Should have gone bet.
Yes.
Still on the rails. You know, Sam Trickett is really a product of the explosion of poker in the UK over the last 5 years. Probably happened a little later than it happened in America. The big explosion with the.
All right, Dan has ace king of hearts. He's
like
going to
this.
raise it. The question is how much, because this a hand like this, it's like you don't want to lose him, but you want to make him pay also. So 80,
Raises to 90,000.
90.
He just goes a little bit higher, but it's his style.
Sam, everything's going his way here. Does he want to risk getting involved? I think.
I mean, it was very
Good fold.
similar to that pot where he made that float with the Jack 9, isn't it? He just decided
Yes.
I didn't have to do it this time, or.
He doesn't have to do it now. And Dan limped in with an ace, so he's changed something, and Sam knows that.
It Here's the wonderful thing, Phil, about poker tournaments. You know, you beat everybody else. You beat the full game. You beat the ring game. You beat the three-handed, the four-handed. There's always going to be one guy staring down at you, and you're going to have to beat him for the title. That's.
Let's see if Dan can find a call here with the King 10 suited.
At the end of the day, if you're not, can't play heads up, you're going to have trouble.
So Dan's made the adjustment, and now he's trapped Sam with a 10-4.
Nice.
Still pretty hard for him to get a good flop for that, but.
6 of spades, 5 of clubs, queen of clubs. C7 checks.
Pot over.
C1 bets 50,000, C7 5.
You know, you talk about what Sam's doing and stuff. If you had Dan Shak over in the corner, what's the antidote for Trickett? Because he's a tough guy to beat. I mean, what are you going to do down there when you're playing Sam Trickett?
I'm going to either start playing Sam's game and start doing a lot of limping, or I'm going to start doing a lot more raising and try to dominate it. One or the other, and that includes I'm going to you know, be more aggressive with my betting and bet more streets even, you know.
Yeah, we both are. We're both hoping for the same thing.
Yeah, this slow game is really benefiting Sam, and you know.
Well, now I definitely should be.
A huge indication that he likes the way things are going is opening up the conversation about travel plans. You know, don't let Dan think about what's going on. Let's just keep it small. Let's keep it friendly. Let's check. Let's just check it all down all the time. You know, like some small bets on the river.
Now, Dan raised to 90 the last hand from the big blind.
90,000.
So, yep, Trickett's not going for it. He's just going to lay down the King 5 in position.
And should Shak say to himself, look, if this is going to happen, I'm going to have to start doing this to my worst hands too.
Exactly, exactly. He needs to change something. He needs to change something. He's getting outplayed, and he must know that. He knows he's been unlucky, but he also feels like he must feel just a little bit like something's wrong, right?
Right, something
Everything's
doesn't smell
too smooth.
right.
Everything's too smooth, right? Sam's agreeing with everything I'm saying. That's a bad sign. You know?
Right, the worst thing is when the guy that's beating you is telling you how lucky he's getting, because, you know, he wants you to believe that, but he feels like, ooh, maybe I'm finding some spots to bluff him. Where am I getting bluffed? That's what Dan's trying to figure out.
So Dan limped in with the Queen Jack, and Trickett checked behind with the Ace 8.
9 of spades, 3 of clubs, 2 of spades. 7 checks, C1 bets 40,000.
Sam might call this.
7 calls.
And so
8 of spades.
Dan lowered his bet sizing a little bit, which is good.
Now that's a good card for Dan Shak to start getting paid.
That is a great card for Dan Shak. I mean, Dan, in his mind, Sam has to be drawing dead here. He has to be drawing.
Right.
Now, we know that he checked an ace in the big blind, but he doesn't know that. He has to be drawing dead. And so...
But Trickett's going to have to figure this out. I mean, this is a great bluffing situation, too, isn't it? Or... Now the king, you represent the king.
If he thinks Dan has a 9 or if he thinks Dan has a 3 or a deuce, yeah, I think it's just hard. He has ace high, which is probably the best hand, Jesse. Anyway,
10 of spades would be the ball game, by the way.
Well, okay.
But he's in the deck.
It is in the deck.
I mean,
River is 2 of diamonds. 7 checks.
maybe that.
C1 is all in.
Why not? Go for it. It's actually the same kind of bet that Tony G made against Phil Locke, the one that knocked him out. Sort of a double pot bet. Who knows? Maybe it'll work.
No. Sam is asking himself, what can he push all in with here? You know, it seems like a flush or nothing, right? And so that's his reasoning. It's a flush or it's nothing. That's why he's taking so long.
Well, the board did pair down there on the river. I mean, it could be something really wonky like a full house as well, right? It's just a weird two-pair that turned into
Dan
a full.
limped in. He hasn't been limping with pairs. He hasn't been limping with any powerful hands that Sam's seen yet, I don't think.
That's right. That's a good point.
I guess
Just roughly, I just want to...
About 8. About 8.
About
Over
800.
So it's such a polarized bet, you're saying,
Little
that Sam
over.
really
The
has to
action.
figure out which side it is.
6.
Yeah, I mean, it
Seven.
really is a polarized bet. I
Little
mean,
over,
it's,
I think, right around there.
he knows that Dan's getting a little desperate, and he knows Dan has not been limping with big hands. So Sam in the mind is thinking a flush or nothing. The other possibility is maybe a deuce somehow, but that doesn't seem likely either. So
It's kind of an Antonio thing, you know. He kind of feels like he's folding right, but he wants to now. He really wants to find out for sure anyway.
well, there's like a 90% chance he folds, right?
It's probably one he'll want to ask about later, regardless.
Oh yeah.
Well, I have no idea what you had there.
No idea. Trickett is the leader. It's taken 181 hands, but they've knocked out 6 players on this final table between them, and are still knocking heads for the trophy. Dan Shak has lost a few chips since they started this heads-up, Phil, but he knows that an all-in would be decisive either way, so still plenty of optimism, I think, for him.
Well, yeah, he just made a flush last hand. He feels like, okay,
4 hearts,
I can
queen
win
of
a pot,
spades, 6
you
of
know.
diamonds. 8-1 checks, 6-7 checks. Turn is 7 of clubs.
They both pick up a straight draw.
Checks. 6-7 bets 40,000. 1 calls.
He called quickly too, so that's Sam's thinking.
River is the 8 of spades. 6-1 checks.
Wow, that's a great card for Dan. Sam might well value bet this. That's 50,000, 60,000.
Thinking that Shaq just hit a 7 and
Well,
it's just
Shaq snap called, so it seems likely he has a 4, a 6, or a 7. And he didn't even consider raising, so Sam knows he doesn't have a queen. So Sam's in good shape. He can beat 8-9 also. So I think he has to value bet this.
wow. That's thin, but they like it thin.
It's not that thin. I mean, really, the only hand he doesn't beat is a 5, right?
Right.
An 8.
7 checks.
What?
He got off the hook.
Good
Goes
check.
straight.
He did not take the bait. No fish.
That was a really good check. I would have bet that hand for sure. The 8s, and it may be 50,000, something like that. But I would have got a bet in because it just seemed like, you know, he didn't have it.
You know, there is a feeling that Sam Trickett is doing so many things right that he's going to take this down, but Dan's got a great aura about him. I really. And
You've liked him the whole way.
well, I just.
You have liked him the whole way.
I do.
You still fancy his chances. You still think he's going to win?
6-1
I do. And I'll tell you how I think it's going to happen. I think he's going to get. I think he's going to hang around till he can get a cooler. Not a cooler, but a good gamble race. You know, a good spot to just bam it in.
Thought I had the best hand that last time. I nearly bet. Good job I didn't bet.
What was that?
That's the second pair. I nearly bet. Thought I had the best
Excellent
hand.
check. Yeah, you thought you
Guess
had the
I
best
should have
hand.
bet something.
He
then.
checked it immediately.
Yeah.
Sam flipped
I don't
his
know
hand
what
up like
it
he had the nuts too. You knew that he knew
Right.
he thought he had the best hand.
It's a small pot anyway.
Yeah.
I don't want to bet have you raise me with end up with the 5-9 and
Yeah.
7 raises to 60,000.
Sam's not going to like this.
Yeah, I don't know what I was thinking about, really.
Wrong folds.
Another big pair.
He does vary it. I mean,
how
as you
am I
said
gonna beat
before,
that?
he was lipping and then
Aces, kings, queens.
goes back and forth. He must be a
Nut
tough
flush.
guy to play with.
Ace 9, ace 10.